Talk shoes. Recorded live.
Hello, this is Kat Miller. It is Tuesday, July 19th, 2011, and I am here speaking with Dane Kirby, who is a shaman. And Dane, how about you tell people a little bit about being a shaman?
Well, it's more fun than I ever thought I could squeeze into one body. But it comes down to shaman, person that works for the tribe to help them solve their problems of a spiritual, mental, physical nature, whatever they may be, so that they do better in the life that they're in.
All right. So a tribe, that sounds like Indians or something like that. Is that what a shaman is?
Well, they've been around. A shaman has been around as long as we've got records and as far back as it goes. So I look at it like, sure, I'm still part of the tribe and taking care of it. It's just the tribe is everything now, since we're all interconnected with the internet and everything. I consider the whole world my tribe.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
So a tribe is just a group of people, every people that you want to have in it.
That's right.
Cool. Awesome. Did you have any particular thing you wanted to talk about today?
Well, I've noticed the last week here, I've run into a couple of situations with folks that a couple of people that they thought they had jobs. They were lined up. The people told them the job is yours. We're talking as in HR. Said, oh, yeah, you're it. Then something would happen at the very last minute, and they weren't it. Somebody else threw their hat in the ring that I guess, and it's kind of strange because both people found out they wanted somebody else all along, and that person had said no, and then at the end of the process, after these people had jumped all through their hoops, this other person decided, oh, yeah, I'll go ahead and take the job. So they were disappointed, to say the least. There was lots of squawking about it, but it came down to both of them realized that it was the universe's way of saying, hey, if you were treated this way by the people that were supposedly telling you they're family-oriented companies and they want to help you, and, once you're in with the family, we take great care of you, and yet this is how they treat you, I'd say the universe did you a favor that you're not doing that, that you're not with that company. And then one of the ladies actually got a completely different offer that she never would have expected a week later. Far superior offer, far better than anything that she even imagined she would have gotten from the job that she spent a month. Actually, both the ladies spent about a month working on the interview process, prepping, getting everything done. And they did all the cool stuff. They sent cards of like saying thank you for the opportunity, et cetera, et cetera. Not a single one of them got any kind of thank you back. I know one of the ladies even followed up with the president, since he was part of the interview team, and said, hi, I understand you're making the offer to somebody else, and I would like to know what I could have done that would have clicked better for you, or what you think I can do in the future, since we did have an excellent interview, if you wouldn't mind helping me out, to improve my interview process for myself. And by the way, tell the person that you have chosen, congratulations, go for it, and have a great, step up and have a great time. And they got nothing back from anybody, both the ladies. And I was like, whoa. And, it came down to, as one of the women put it after we talked for a while, she said, so basically, the universe used these people as a tool to get me to a different place so I could accept it. And I said, there you go. One of the ladies, like I say, got a far superior position than she ever would have expected. Just this offer, she said the opportunity felt like it dropped right out of the sky in her lap. And she realized
so what
that
if
she
the
would.
response was that? She sent out the thank you, what pointers, and da-da-da-da-da, and was very magnanimous, I suppose, about how things progressed. And in the gratitude and appreciation for them having worked with her, having put all of that out there, she got a response. It
just
might
not
not
the way
have
she expected.
Yeah.
She was hung up on. Yeah, she was hung up on. Wow, these people have no manners. They're rude. Gee, they don't even have the common courtesy to say, hey, we love the cards you sent us. We're glad you're in the process. Nothing. Even though they said this is what they were all about. But then a week after it all came apart, or so she felt, the universe said, oh, here. And she admitted that she would not have been in a position mentally or spiritually to have taken the job if she hadn't gotten, as she felt originally, nailed to the wall by these other people that just totally left her hanging in a very, as she felt, unprofessional way. And then the second lady that literally got pretty much the same kind of dusting, I guess you would say. And as I pointed out to her, the universe used these people for tools. Don't hold it against them. Where did it put you? And she realized that her husband had been wanting her help on a website that he'd been working with for a long time because he believes in her, he loves her, and they love working together. And she never really could find the time. Oh, yeah, well, we can sort of do that. Yeah, well, okay. And after this happened, she said, you know, my husband and I, we're great. I went and told him, said, you know, I want, let's do this. Let's make it happen. Because she said, I put, well, I guess in her case, 6 weeks of effort into this position, these people, you know what I mean, this opportunity, just to get blown off like I did. And she said, I could have put that same 6 weeks in on your business, our business, and we could have turned a nice profit off of that. And so now he's ecstatic, she's ecstatic, and they're having a great time. And they're both taking on opportunities and expanding into stuff that they never thought they would do. And they're doing it together, and they're happy as clams. Well, I assume clams are happy. They seem happy, but
it is.
I'm not touched with many clams, you know.
We hear happy as clams. We hear that all the time.
So, and that's how it's all turned out for them. And so and then I ran across actually a friend of mine that realized that, I guess, been out of high school for 15 years now, 20 years, and still would every once in a while kind of hang out with the same friends and just realize that their radar and his radar aren't even related anymore. He's like, whoa, you guys have families too, yet you do risky, stupid stuff that could get you in trouble or get you hung up somehow with your wife, or, you know, you don't look good in front of your kids when you do some of that dumb stuff, like you think you're still in high school. And he said, you know, it's funny, we still have the same conversations, just like we did in high school. And he's realizing, though, that he really didn't know how to decide to break it off. And he's like, I'm done with this. This is not where I want to be. It's not where I want my family to be. I'm headed for different. And then he realized, you know, we talked about it, I said, well, what's already happening in that direction, or you wouldn't be saying this. And he realized, he said, you know, we used to spend, you know, like, say, 3 weekends out of a month together. Now, we might get together 3 weekends out of a year. I said, well, there you go. The process is taking care of itself. And it's just the reality of it for him, that his friends didn't, well, grow up with him. And that he's very different than his best friends in high school. And they were, you know how you are in high school, you're thick as thieves. And he's like, and he was having issues with it, that he's changing, he's becoming more of what he wants to be. He wants to be an excellent example for his children, so he works at that kind of thing. He consciously makes the effort, excuse me, and his friends aren't. Excuse me. So he was finding the dichotomy a little rough on him after they had all gotten together this weekend, and it had been a while. Mm-hmm. And so we had a long talk about that as to which way he wanted to go and what he wanted to do with it. And he realized that, hey, he's got new and different friends now. They're actually ahead of him or pushing him to be better or just like him. And he's liking that better. It's just that those were the friends he grew up with in those super formative years, and he's been around them for forever, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And to let them go is bothering him.
Well, it's kind of a combination. What I'm seeing there is a combination of your already always listening, which basically means you already have a picture of what that person is like. You knew them best when you were in school. Mm-hmm. And you keep that picture. There's actually basically a snapshot of a particular moment that you kind of associated with them. Mm-hmm. So when you get together with them, that moment is there. And as that moment is there, they begin, you just see them the way that they were then. And it doesn't matter what they're doing now or where they are now. you're still seeing them through the lens of yesteryear.
Right.
And so the fact that you haven't been hanging around with them for very, very much recently, indeed, has made the energies grow in different directions. Because, of course, you've got your life, you've got your focus, you've got what you've been doing and where you see your life going and what you want to accomplish. And they're in a very different space. And I've had my children say the same sort of thing about people that they went to school with, especially high school. It's like, man, everyone I went to high school with, none of them have progressed. None of them are, like, in adulthood anymore or yet or whatever. And I sometimes think that when you have these relationships that are very close relationships in high school, and then you go about your different ways, when you get back together, you see them as you saw them then, and you don't let them progress. It's a little bit different in college because even though you're having the time of your life and you are in still a play mode, you're also in the mode of I am getting a focus on what I want to do with my life. And so you are doing more of a grow during the college years. And the people that you go to college with and that you become good friends with in college tend to be following into the same sort of career as you're following into, because that's where you're meeting them, is in the classes there. And so what I see as I look around, and I see, especially with my children and such, they've maintained a lot more close relationships with people that they met when they were in college. And they do have the same kind of attitude that you were bringing to me from your friend about high school kids when they've gone to a high school reunion or made contact with somebody that they knew in high school and they haven't been around them for 10 years now or 12, 13, whatever. They're seeing them as still being who they were in high school. And the thing that's kind of interesting is I bet that if you talked to the other person on the other side, that they probably have the same attitude about my kids.
Yeah, it's funny when I was talking to the friend of mine about this, and it was troubling for him. It really was giving him issues, and he said something similar to that because he realized later. He said, they were out doing, just goofing off and doing something, and they started giving him trouble. So you're wussing out on us now, huh? Jay, what happened to the real Randy? The real Bob, the real Joe, the real Ethel. They just started giving him, making up all kinds of names for him and dogging him out. So who are you now? And they gave him hell. So,
but it's the energy. The energy. You have you put your filter on, and you also, you and they tend to track back into that area too. Like you have a tendency when you are around your parents to be completely different from how you are elsewhere. Why? Because you are their son, and they have had expectations as you were growing up. They had particular expectations that you tried to follow or you tried to hide that you didn't follow. It's kind of like a gentleman I know, when his parents come to town, he acts completely different than he does. It drives his wife absolutely nuts. His parents come to town, and he gets very upset with her if she's drinking in her own house when his parents are there, because his parents are very against alcohol themselves. They don't have a problem with other people doing what other people will do. But he totally freaks out at her over the fact that she will have alcohol, drink wine or something like that when they're at their house. He becomes, she's told me that she enjoys having his parents there, except for the fact that her husband becomes some kind of lunatic when they're there. and it relates to I can't be who I am around my parents because I don't want my parents to know who I really am because they never wanted me to be who I am, and that's always your own little voice in there. Your parents always want you to be whoever you want to be. It's
right.
Not that. It's a parent, and I'm sure as a parent most people know this, that the parents are simply trying to offer the best of the best of the best to their children, and they're trying to give them opportunities, and they're trying to save them from themselves as they're growing up. And what the child sees is, my parents are control freaks.
Yep.
And so it's the shift into the adulthood that sometimes the child just has a whole lot of difficulty showing the adult that they are to the parent because I guess they feel oppressed or that who they are is not good enough for their parents. And I think that is the biggest one there. Who I really am is not who my parents think I am, and I'm not really good enough for them. And so I can't let them see who I really am. And so they backtrack and they go into, often start acting like a much younger person when they're around their parents, like they're 7 or 8 years old or 12 or 13. And so that's something that we do, and we put out that energy. You are constantly reading other people's energy.
Mm-hmm.
And what they expect of you, you can feel what they expect of you. And it can take a lot of gumption to step outside of the energy of what somebody else expects of you.
Well, also, when you fall back to that certain level, when you act a certain age around people, that was one of the most formative times in your life where you either felt comfortable with that person or where you were really having your battles with them. So, and I tell that to people. I say, well, if this is who you're acting when you're around them, why? Why are you acting that way? And they're like,
happened?
They're like, oh, well, and I'm like, well, there you go. So, and I give them the choice. We can either change that to where, okay, you're done with going back to that. We can change your set point to where you're now as you are. And a lot of people are just downright, they're always looking for that approval, and they're just scared of, well, not only in their own right of stepping up and saying, this is who I am to themselves, but saying it to, especially parents or close friends or loved ones, that's why you fall back on those old patterns, because if you change, I might lose that friend I've had for 10 years, 5 years, whatever intense amount of time it's been, and you're comfortable with them at some level, or so you think you still are. When you've changed, they've changed, the world changes. And you're both ready to move on, and neither one of you know how to do anything about it. It's just fascinating how we as people are with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much.
It always stretches back to, I want to look good, or failing that, at least I don't look bad. I don't want to look bad. Mm-hmm. And that's where we go to so often in our relationships, both in our family and in our friendships and social relationships. And so that's why one person gets blamed for something that someone else did, is because if I can push the blame off on him, I still look good, and he's the one that looks bad. And so there's always a battle going on like that. But the reality of it is, when you stand up and you take responsibility for whatever action you've taken, you actually bring yourself into so much more integrity, and you get a lot more respect. I'm reminded just now of a story about a president of a company who called all of his executives in and had a meeting with them. He told them that I have a seed for each of you, and I want you to plant that. I intend to retire in a year. I want you to plant your seeds, take good care of them, nourish them, bring them back in a year, and I want to see how you all have treated your plants, what's come of it over the course of the year. And then I'll make my decision as to who it is that is going to come in to this position behind me. I will decide my successor. Well, all of the executives took their seeds home, and they did that. And this one, he watered and he tended and he took good care, but nothing ever grew. The seed never germinated, and the planter he had it in, it was barren, completely barren. A year goes by, and everybody is told that they're to come and they're to bring the plants and, you know, whatever has happened with their seedling or their seed. And so he shows up at this meeting, and he just could not bring himself to pretending like something grew from it. And so he took this empty planter with him to the office, to the meeting, and he was really quite embarrassed, especially when he started to see all of the things that the other executives had. They, you know, some of them had very tall, flourishing plants, and all kinds of things were there. And his was the only one that grew nothing. And so he just kind of hid his at the back, and he was really quite embarrassed. And as the meeting progressed and the president looked over everything, he told him that he had made his decision as to who was going to be his successor, and he picked up the empty planter, and he asked who was it that owned that did this one, and the guy shows that yes, it was me. I did it. That one was mine. I everything I did, it just didn't grow. And he said, "You are the only one in this room with any kind of integrity. None of those seeds was fertile. Every one of them was terminated. It was destroyed. It would not grow. And when anyone else that was there saw that they weren't getting any growth, they went and they replaced it. They bought something that showed. And so, responsibility, integrity, that shows a lot about you. And if you take the blame for something that went wrong when you were responsible for it, instead of trying to put it over on someone else, you grow from it, and so do those around you. And you gain respect, and you are in your integrity. And when you are in your integrity, that is when the world opens up to you.
There you go.
So
and that's when the universe gives it to you.
And I love that the stories you told me about the two people who thought they had jobs but wound up not having them, and where things are going since then. I mean, to get a job offer that is far beyond and that you weren't open to. Had you not gotten the experience you had before that. That was obviously the universe opening up, and sending thank yous for considering me, and please let me know anything else, all of that was really opening up to something better coming. And she did get the response. And I love the one about the realization that working together on a website will help enhance both of the couple, both sides of the couple.
And the one thing I know about that couple too is they used to have a couple different jobs where they worked together, and they haven't worked together in a few years, and so now they're working together again, and they like it that way.
I recall being told that you never want to work with your spouse because it just never works out, and it is hard on the marriage. And back in, when my daughter was in second grade, and she's now Well, she's older than me now. She's 31. Or approaching 31. Is that right? No, she's 31 and approaching 32. Anyway, so she's like 5 years older than me now.
There you go, telling her age to the world.
Anyway, okay, where did my train of thought go? Oh, we came home. I came home, and I started working, doing medical transcription. My husband was doing computer consulting. And we spent probably 12, 14 hours a day working together in the office, together but separate, side by side, back to back, whatever, depending upon how we had the office arranged. And I have absolutely loved every minute of us being together. Neither of us has worked for an employer since the early to mid-'80s. And I just couldn't imagine having to work in a different manner. Now, we also tend our grandkids together. And we can tag team, and that's kind of nice to have a tag team partner on that. And so it's whatever you make of it. And I'll never tell anybody that, hey, it's not a good idea to go into business with your spouse and work together, because my experience has been absolutely wonderful. We have been doing this now for 25 years probably, working together.
There you go.
And I love it. And so that's totally awesome that the two have an opportunity to work together. And
it's just making it better and more for them. And they're happier. And that's what it all comes down to. That's what it's all about. And you know, that's what I told, oh darn, what name did I make up for him? The other...
I don't recall that you had
I call him Ethel or Randy or Bob, whatever name I made up for him that I used earlier. The other person about his, his friends, how he was heading in a different direction, and they were too. And it came down to, I said, but what makes you happy? And he said striving for more, and he's not doing it like beating his head. He's got a plan. Do you know what I mean? And I said, okay, what is it that makes you unhappy about what you see in your friends? And he said, none of them have a plan. And I said, okay, is that a deal breaker for you? And he said, it is, because my plan with my family is my goal. That's what I want. And I said, okay, if any of your friends actually had a plan and they were doing it, how would you feel then? He said, then we'd have something in common. He said, but we don't have anything in common anymore, because I'm not who I was then, but they still want to be, and they still want me to be. And he said, so it is time to, let that image go for myself and move on. And now he's quite happy with it. It's more of a case of he's like, wow, and filling in the space. I said, just fill that space in that you feel that's being emptied with their images and their friendships for over the years, with what you're doing now, and make your goal even stronger and your plan even better. And he's like, hey, let me do something like that. So he got a hold of me a little later and said, hey, that worked. He said, because I did have all this empty space, and that's what was really bothering me, because they used to fill it, and they were my friends. And he said, I started filling that space, like consciously thinking of it, of, okay, wow, I'm feeling kind of down about that again and everything. And he said, well, here's what I'm doing with my plan today. And plan, as I lay it out, and it's clicking along today, I want you to go in that space that feels empty to me. And, of course, it does, because you're telling yourself what to do, and the universe is, of course, more than happy to give you that. And, and he said, wow, it just turned around instantly. Suddenly, he wasn't, oh, man, this feels kind of weird. I'm feeling kind of lame about this. And that just disappeared for him. And it's not that he doesn't like the people anymore or anything like that, or he has anything against them, or he thinks he's better than them, or they think they're better than him. It's just what is. Exactly. And making the transition is tough for people, because a lot of times folks don't have something to fill it in with. And that's why a lot of times people stay in a job that's hell on earth for them, because it's better the pain than to jump and go, you know. and
Better the
especially
pain you know than to jump and go. Yeah, we're fearful of the unknown. And so we hold on to, at least I know what will happen tomorrow if I stay where I am today.
Mm-hmm.
And we have this huge fear of stepping into the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
But we've
Definitely.
done it time after time after time.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's worked out great, and sometimes we've wondered why we did it.
Oh, yeah. I've made some leaps that, well, especially when I was young and angry, I made some leaps that cost me far higher price than I ever thought any human should pay. But once I got my balance and my act together and decided not to be an angry young man, it's amazing how my decisions pan out, for the most part, wonderfully. And the ones that don't, something always shakes out to show me why it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I mean, truthfully, I don't get my butt handed to me anymore because I listen to myself, my heart, and the universe. Because if you're listening to your heart, and your heart isn't hurting and broken or angry, it's amazing that you go the path you're meant to be. And there are times that path isn't what you thought you should be doing or what your ego told you you are worth, and this isn't worth you. It's the path you are meant to be while you are here on this planet at this time. And it's amazing if you do that, how, wow, suddenly your stress is gone, your energy is up, you feel better. It's like, wow, this is good stuff. Whoever thought I would be happy gardening? Whoever thought I'd be happy that, yeah, I've got this neat day job it's nothing great, but I like it, and the people are good, and, you know, they treat me good, and I'm paid enough to where I'm comfortable, and I like it. What's wrong with that? Who says everybody has to go out there and be some kind of guru or entrepreneur or something like that? Nothing says that other than ego. And if you're comfortable and you like your life the way it is and it's good and the people in your life are treating you well, I have no issues with that, and I don't expect that anybody in that situation would either. But if you do find yourself saying, wow, I know there's something else out there, then say, universe, bring it on. I want to see what it is. I want to experience it, and let's go from there. And speaking of which, I'm going to segue that to you. What do you got for a switch phrase on that?
Okay. Trust is to align your energy. Keep. What is keep? Keep is, I guess I could look these things up because I'm just doing what shows up.
Come on, use that photographic memory.
Well, I did not.
Is it out to the cleaners again?
Trust is to align physical, emotional, and spiritual energies and balance chakras. And keep, I only have like over 200, probably close to 300 switch words, so that you choose them. Is to be safe, to feel cherished.
Mm-hmm.
And so trust and keep come up here as important for getting you to that space of feeling good. And one thing that I just keep seeing as one of the great big issues where people are sitting in stress is they're trying to second guess themselves. When you try to second guess yourself, you cause a lot of stress because you made that decision, you walked through that door. Why are you now 2 miles down the road from that decision, wondering if you made the right decision and trying to look back through that door, around the corner, and in through another door, and trying to figure out what would have happened if you walked through that other door instead of this one? And you can't know. You didn't do that. You didn't make that particular choice. You made this choice. Second guessing what you've done will always put you in a space of stress. Because you will be thinking that had you made a choice that you didn't make, you would be in a better place. What if, had you made that choice, it would have been something completely different from what you are seeing or expecting it would have been? You don't know. You can't know from where you are now where you would be had you made another choice. You just can't know it.
Right.
You stand in what is. You can't change what is. You can only change the future. Because what is what is. And what will be is not set.
Right.
That's where your power is. Your power is in the now, creating what the future will be. And when you actually clear out the spaces like you were talking about with the high school friends, it opens up all kinds of new possibilities.
Yep.
And you can stand in that opening and go, wow, now I have these things available to me. Now this is something that was not available before you let go of something else. When you're holding on to, if you're trying to hold a ball down in a swimming pool and you're pushing with all of your might, you start to fatigue. Your muscles get sore. And you're holding on. That's kind of like what you're doing with all of this stress. And when you finally release it and that ball goes flying up out of the water, your hands are now free to do something else.
Yep.
You have an open space. You have an ability to go beyond where you were a minute ago because you let it go. And stress and worries, there's nothing to them. You create them yourself. When you put your focus on something that tightens you up, that stresses you, you're doing it. Nothing else. There's nothing to worry about. What will be. And according to the law of attraction, you worrying is you bringing closer to you the experience that you're worrying about. And I've seen that with people too. Like I've talked about.
It becomes that habit. It becomes ingrained. And unfortunately, a lot of times we learn it from our family or the loved ones that raised us because it's what they did. So it just becomes automatic. And they're like, and people get pissed at me when I talk with them about it or work with them sometimes. They really like, well, you know what? This is who I am. This is the way I was raised, get off my back. And I'm like, well, keep going. You're the one that's having a hissy fit about this. Why is it bothering you so much? Could it be that at the deepest level of yourself, you know that this is the time and place to change it, and you're with the right person that can help you change it, so let's change it. What do you say? You don't have anything to lose, and you've got the universe to gain. I know.
Well, as humans, it is very difficult sometimes to let go of ego, which, by the way, quiet is your switch word to quiet the ego. And we will often fight tooth and nail to hold on to what it is that we want to let go of. Purge comes as a switch word for expelling things. So, purge, cancel, for letting go of those worries and expelling them.
Or would it be cancel, purge?
Well, I suppose that either way is okay. Purge.
Because you're canceling whatever the issue is and then purging it?
Well, purge is to expel. Cancel has a whole lot of different meanings. Let me read what cancel has here. We have eliminate negativity or unwanted conditioning, eliminate, erase, or discreate debt or any kind of negativity or unwanted thought or condition, dispel annoyance, to dispel worry, eliminate poverty. So all of those things are part of cancel. And I usually will use purge cancel, which is to expel it, the negativity, whatever it is that's negative, expel it.
Good.
And I suppose that either direction is fine, cancel, purge, or purge, cancel. I'm just more drawn to the purge, cancel.
You're saying get rid of it first and then delete it. Okay, sure. Get it out of where it's at.
Yeah, expel it and then get rid of it. Yeah.
Okay, makes sense, because I guess if you cancel it first, then why purge? Yeah, okay, let's go with purge, cancel. I like that. But humans, I grew up, of course, in the Deep South, and there's always some kind of funny saying about something. And more than once, I remember Dad, if somebody was just being downright stubborn, contrary, whatever, and Dad would look at him, and I'll give you a cuss word alert, folks, cuss word alert, and he'd look at him and say, "Boy, you'd bitch if I hung you with a new rope, wouldn't you?" And that's the truth, and people, it would just stop them cold in their tracks, and they'd have to think about it. And they'd say, "But either way, I'm in trouble." And he says, "Yeah, now you get it. So we're going to take care of this now and move on, or are you going to sit here and keep hanging with that new rope?" And but we do that to ourselves, especially if it's something that you're passionate about, especially if it's something you're negatively passionate about. We get ourselves hung up like that, so to speak. But yeah, it's all a case of it's so easy to be what the universe wants us to be if we decide it is. And that's the big trick.
It. You decide. Is life hard? If you decide that life is hard, that is the experience you're going to have. If you decide that life is easy, that is the experience that you're going to have.
Definitely.
And what you say is what becomes. Especially when you use the I am, or I have to, or my, it's all creating. So gotta pay attention. What are you saying? Because you're creating it.
Totally.
I'll never forget the conversation with somebody who told me when I mentioned death focus to them as being something that will tend to bring you to a terminal illness or bring death to you earlier. He was concerned about his own mortality, the fact that his father died in his mid-40s and therefore at a relatively young age, and now he's into his adulthood, and he kept thinking, I don't want to die young like my father died young. I don't want to die young. And he said that when I brought in that death being a focus tends to bring death closer, he said when I talked about it, it just rung so true with him because he had been focused. He said that a lot of the time, every day was spent in the space of I don't want to die young, fear of dying young, fear of death, all a focus on death. And when he realized that, and he worked with techniques that he has to clear that, such as EFT, the Emotional Freedom Vial, and those sort of things, when he did that, he felt a lot of energy released, and he actually had a lot of stress in his body, and he said he could just describe it as pockets or clusters of pain and tightness in his chest and in different areas around his body that just loosened up and lightened up and left.
That's it.
He was creating the early death. He was in the process of creating an early death by his focus on I don't want to die an early death. He had a death focus. So get rid of that. Let it go. What do you want? You want to live. It's not you don't want to die. That's a death focus.
Yep.
You want to live.
we used to joke about it years ago. You've probably heard it, where the average teenage male thinks of sex once every 17 seconds, I believe is the number. But so we have that capability to focus like that. But as we get older, it's amazing how many people replace something like, ooh, sex with, oh man, my life sucks. Oh, these people are assholes. Oh man, again I have to do this today. So, folks, the universe is still growing and expanding and creating. We're part of the universe. We're made of the same exact material as the universe, okay? We're not different that way. So, you're going against the very grain of the universe if you're not growing and expanding. And if you're going for entropy, or if you're going for stasis, or you're going for, oh, I can't move because I'm scared. Well, the very universe itself and the very matter that we are built out of is meant to grow. So just let it happen. And since that's perfectly natural and normal, there's no fear in it. The fear only happens when we go against the grain of what we are meant to be.
You brought up stardust with that conversation. Let me show you or read to you the diffusing word stardust, meaning what it's about and what it means for you or for us. Stardust is for diffusing ignorance of the universal life cycle and our interconnectedness with each other. Stardust reminds us that we come from the stars and the stars come from us. Stardust is produced in a supernova explosion during the cataclysmic end of a star's life. Stardust is ejected into space by the force of the massive explosion, where it is mixed with other matter and forms new stars and planets. The Earth is rich in heavy elements from stardust. The iron in our blood and the calcium in our bones were forged from stardust. We are made of stardust, and in time we return to stardust. Stardust reminds us we are all one. Each of us sees a reflection of ourselves in the way we experience those around us. Stardust reminds us to follow the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you, because in the end you are doing it to yourself.
And like you said with forging, forge the life you are. Forge the person you are to be. Because if you're doing that, then you are the person that you want to be or mean to be or think you should be. Well, that forging process is a shaping and a creating. Go for it. It's just natural. The only time that it's not is when you decide it's not, okay?
Exactly.
We make this sound so simple, and people are going, oh, that's bullshit. That's too easy, folks. No, it isn't. Why does it have to be difficult? I mean, look, I'm 49 years old. I lived a lot of my life the hard way. Didn't start out that way, but I made a classic mistake of letting all the people that were after me convince me that it was meant to be that way. And, yeah, sure, my parents meant well, but they also, oh, yeah, you work hard. Everything was hard. Well, I did it. I worked hard. I played hard. I did a lot of damage to this poor body in the process. My spirit messed it up, too, until I understood that, you know, the folks meant well, but it isn't about playing hard or living hard. It's about loving. And as you love, you live. Hard doesn't come into the equation unless you think it should. And truthfully, it doesn't belong there. It's a decision that we create and bring into our lives if we want it hard.
Exactly.
And folks, it took me a couple decades for sure to even start working that off. And understanding that even though some of the people meant well that were teaching me that, and a lot of them didn't, it was just the wrong avenue to take. Why? Don't waste your time that way, folks. Live, love, be happy. You know?
We're born into it. And as we are born into specific societies, and specific ideals and specific beliefs. And through our lives, eventually, we can decide if we want to align with what we've been given or if we want to create something different, something of our own creation. And it's okay, it's fine to do whatever you want to do there. If you want to toe the line and follow what has been in your society, in your lineage, then that is fine. That is your choice. You can. There's nothing out there that says that that's wrong, and that's what the whole point is. What you're doing, there's nothing wrong there. What you've been, there's nothing wrong there. Where you are, there's nothing wrong. You make decisions, you make choices, and where you go from here is controlled by those decisions, those choices, and you don't know how it's actually going to happen, whatever it is. Isn't that the spirit of life? Isn't that what's so wondrous, so amazing, so marvelous about life? Is it's not predetermined. Is you don't know everything that's going to happen, every interaction, everything. Wouldn't life be absolutely boring if you knew exactly what every decision you made was going, how it was going to pan out? I mean, how many times can you watch the same movie and know the plot inside out before you're tired of it? If you know absolutely what is going to happen every single time you watch that movie, doesn't it eventually get old? So if you know absolutely what's going to happen with every decision you make in your life, wouldn't that be absolutely boring? I'm not into boring.
Nope.
I like being able to make my own decisions, to make my own choices, and to see what comes of it. And the best laid plans are never completely followed. There are always going to be change orders. You're going to get into it, and you're going to go, oh, you know, I thought that yellow would be perfect here, but as I'm looking at it now, I'm thinking that blue is a better color for this. So I'm going to make a decision, and I'm going to make it blue.
There you go.
It's like you have the right. You can make choices, and you can make decisions, and you can later decide that you want to do something different now. And that's all just fine and dandy. Doesn't mean you were wrong before, and it doesn't mean that you're going to be right now. Because basically there is no right or wrong. There are only choices. And
I do recommend go for the positive ones. It tends to work out better.
Yeah, if it feels good, it's probably going to be something that you're going to really enjoy a lot more than if it really feels like a negative space that you're taking making a decision for. And I kind of like to identify decisions versus the difference between decisions versus choices. When you make a decision, it's weighted. You look at the positives and the negatives, you look at the different possibilities, and you weigh, you know, where are the positives, where are the negatives, what is it that I want? And so when you make a decision, you're weighing all of your options. When you make a choice, you just decide, this is what I want. And there's no weight there. And I personally think that when you have the weight of the decision, you are prone to looking back and going, oh, there were more negatives on this than I saw before. there are more positives on that one than I had seen before. I probably should have done that, because if I did that, I'd have all these positives that I don't have here, and so on. And so a decision often is second guessed. Whereas if you just make a choice, it's just in the moment. I make this choice. I want to go right instead of left. And it's just because I'm going for a walk, and I decided that I wanted to turn right. There's nothing behind the decision, the choice. It's just that I want to go right.
Well, the nice thing about choice instead of decision is that your subconscious gets to come through a lot better.
Yes, indeed. It feels good.
And it's amazing how, I'm going to just, I'm turning here just because I've got this urge to. Suddenly you see something you never thought you'd seen before, and you're like, wow, I wouldn't have done that if I had just decided to stick on the path to get to here today that I said I would. So
let it flow. Let the choices be made. Quit second guessing. And quit looking back at the door that just closed. Because in looking back at the door that just closed, you're missing the 3 doors that have just opened.
That's right. What's Carol Merrill got behind curtain number 3? I'm showing my age with that one, I guess. Hey, darling, I'm happy with this tonight. What do you think? We good?
Okay, very good. One more quick thing on the purge cancel. You can do that if you have a habit of worrying and negative thinking. Try chanting purge cancel for 2 or 3 minutes when you first wake up in the morning, and then every 2 hours throughout the day, and do that for a week or 2 and watch what happens. And if you feel yourself starting to go into a negative space, go ahead and chant it a few times then. But basically what happens is you do that is it often will stop the negative thinking before it starts. And if you do that for 2 or 3 weeks, you start to get yourself in the habit of positive thinking and getting outside the worries and the negative. So, just another thing to play with. Well, we will talk to you next week, Dane. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
You too, dear.
And have a wonderful day, everybody else.
Okay, folks, have fun. We'll see you again.
Okay.